Hey everybody, it's Pat and Dave from the Wave Podcast. We're back again, and this week we're going to be showing you guys a little bit more on the concept end of things. I know last week we were talking a little bit about what was going on with the new concepts that were put out, the Performance B and the Performance E. And Dave and I got thinking that, Subaru's put out a lot of concepts in the past, and not just they put them out, but they either stray far from the concept or they keep it close and you get exactly what they're promoting. Um, so
And
we
that's
wanted,
with any manufacturer to a point. I mean,
yeah, we wanted to kind of go through the history of Subaru specifically because we want to see how many cars that they've done as far as concepts that have been close to what they put out or have been, or do they just always stray super far from their concept. I am going to recommend that anybody who can should definitely check out the video for this on Spotify and YouTube on our channels, just because we are going to be showing photos, but I will be describing these cars as we go along and the different features between them. And then our WRX Files today is also going to be about cars that Subaru put concepts out of and didn't actually become production vehicles, including one that I'm very sad about because it's a sick car and I really wish they made it. So, um, so Dave, let's jump right in. I want to start with some cars that Subaru kind of baited us. They put these cars out and they just didn't meet expectations when they came to fruition. So one of those cars is one that I'm sure you're well acquainted with, is this was supposed to be the 2015 WRX. Now, when you look at this car, you can tell that, is it far off? I want to say it's not crazy far off, being that
there's some similarity.
but this is my problem, is that this looks so much like a 22 WRX. And I think that that is what is throwing me off in my mind, is that this car, right? If you look at this is the 2015, what it ended up being. It's a boxier car. It's a lot taller. It's not as sleek. The headlights are not as fancy. This is essentially what we got. But when you look at this picture, this really looks like a 22. Um,
Mm.
because the 22 WRXs are more of a sedan. They feel more of this sleek, almost like a Honda Accord body style.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you see these pictures, right, like if you put this next to a 22, I feel like it would be closer than putting this next to a 15. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And, you know, basically back in 2013 when they released this, people were expecting that this car was going to become a production vehicle just because Subaru was on a kick with the WRXs and the STIs, and they hadn't taken away the STI yet. So, people knew there was going to be an STI version of this, but I think this was the first insight that we had into them going down the neon yellow, like the highlighter yellow path with these calipers and everything. So,
That's a good
um,
point.
I think that that's something that they did keep, that did end up, transitioning over. Um, but I don't believe we saw the highlighter yellow calipers until the later models, right? I don't think they had that in 2015.
I think so. I think you're right.
I
I
think that
mean,
was like
hey, as always,
yeah.
famously, roast us down in the comments if we're wrong. But um, yeah, I think it was kind of one of those maturity things where I feel like a lot of what was laid out here, you're right, kind of skipped a generation in a way. There was some carryover, but I mean, like with the sea lights, obviously, but beyond that, like, yeah, you're right. It looks like it almost skipped a generation to a point.
Yeah. I mean, the
And
things that I just love about it too is like the headlights and the taillights look good. I think the rear taillights almost look like a Tesla.
oh,
The
don't say that. They look way better.
But this was in 2013. This was nowhere near what cars were coming out looking like from production. I feel like
Sure,
this really is like if you told me that this was a 22 Subaru WRX, I would believe you. But back in 2013, I mean, just nobody was really, especially for the price point that the Subarus were at, nobody was putting these kind of lights and stuff on these cars with these rims, stuff
sure.
like that.
Well, I think to a certain point, you have to appreciate throughout all of this that when it comes to concept vehicles, in a sense, that's kind of what they are. I think it's the manufacturer, giving the designers almost a free rein to a sense and saying, "Hey, let's see what you guys can come up with, and we'll take certain design features based on market feedback and kind of incorporate those. But we really want you to go out there and throw a bunch of things. It's the old famous saying, throw a bunch of the things at the wall and see what sticks. And I feel
Yeah,
like when it comes to prototype vehicles, that's very much what the whole mindset is, and not just for Subarus, but with any manufacturer. They're trying to basically gauge interest, and I think that's where we talked a lot about last episode was, hey, if everyone's going to basically sawn all over the new generation or the prototype, well, then they won't build anything like that,
yeah.
and they'll build something that no one's ever seen before and no one's have ever had input into. But I think it's up to us, the consumers that are actively looking to purchase. We should be cognizant of certain design element.
Well, I think that every concept too is a little bit of like, let's see what sticks and engage a little bit of our customers, and it's almost like a check-in, because they
Mm-hmm.
put something out and they want to make sure that their fan base is still heading that direction. And if the fan base is up in an uproar and they, what is this? Why are we going this way? Why are you guys making this? Well, then they know. And then they can kind of alter from there what they want to do. And I think that as far as like the most recent concepts with the E and the B, I think that the overwhelmingly positive feedback is definitely going to push them to produce something like that and put out, the features that everybody's screaming for.
I agree.
And I think too with Subaru, they've evolved to the point where like with the bug eyes, they didn't have to put in all of these like fancy features. It was a very bare bones, like this is a car that's meant to be driven, and we are gonna give you the stuff that it needs. Like the Momo wheels were awesome in the bug eyes, and like the interior was very basic, but it got the job done. And I think that like they definitely have upped their game in terms of interior, and I think that they are becoming more of like,
Sure.
the everyday vehicle.
I guess the other contention to be said is the market shifted. The target, as they say, has been moved multiple times over to where, as a manufacturer of an automotive car brand, the target has shifted, and depending on what target you're trying to hit. And if you look at where Subaru has been very keen on, like you said, in the bug eye generation, well, they didn't have a tablet, iPad in the center console that they could put in. Maybe they would have if they could have back in the day.
Yeah.
But now we accelerate to an era where we have so much technology and there's so much need to try to implement and innovate and do new things comparative to, I think at the end of the day, maybe and I'd love to see, and Subaru maybe do this. And here's the here's maybe the hot take for the episode. Look at what Dodge has done. And they said, you know what? We're gonna double down on making a Hellcat. We're gonna double down on making cars that are just absolutely insane value for horsepower. And now that provocates a whole takeover debate, but obviously we made our voices clear, both of us. We don't condone that type of activity. However, they've just said, you know what? We're just going to go crazy. And so maybe what Subaru needs is a little bit crazy. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe.
y- well, I want to get your take on that once we go through this, because I think that they've been trying to be crazy for a while. I think that all these concepts really have been them trying to push the market, and then I think
Hmm.
the market pushes back. you know,
I agree.
so I just want to roll into the next one here and kind of show you. So
Yeah.
this was the 13 to 15 concept in production. Now we're looking at the 17 concept leading into the 22 production.
Mm.
So as you recall, the 22 WRXs, they are more of a sedan body, more of like a sleeker design. They have those plastic fenders that everybody hates so much. I think that in this, they kept it pretty close. I think that this is, this
You're
is
right.
all craziness back here. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think none of this is real. But, like if you just look at the taillight design, you look at the body style, you look at these fenders, um, the front end, I mean, they don't have these crazy light setups, but I mean, dude, this is pretty close.
The
I
overall
mean,
style is still there. Yeah.
yeah, it's got the hex grill. It's got this
Yep.
same lower bumper. I mean, I really think that this is closer to the 22 design than the last one is to the 15 design.
Sure.
Um, but I mean, this is something that Subaru was kind of gearing towards. I think that this car and this car are not far off. And I think that this whole time they've been aiming, to get to the final destination, which is basically, the 22 design WRX. So, yeah, these are two that lead me to believe that the Performance B and the Performance E, they're not far off of what the final product will be. I think that, it'll have the
Sure.
same stylings and it'll have the same sort of design, but you can tell from both of these designs, the only thing that really changes is they always try to make the headlights look way more futuristic than they are. They always try to do the same thing with the taillights.
Every company
Um,
I feel like does that.
I feel like they're always iffy with a wing. They either show a wing or don't show one with the concept, but whatever you get in production is what it is. I mean, the fenders are pretty similar. I feel like in their concepts, well, at least the what I'm seeing is they always go super wide with the wide body. They always make the
Oh, of
fenders like
course.
super crazy thick. They make it look like it's just an absolute monster, and then they tame it back in when they do the final. Yeah, I mean, just it's very typical that they do stuff like this. I mean, these wheels look like BMW wheels. I
Mhm.
think that like they try to always make it look fancier than it is because people know that WRXs are normally in a certain price point, and when the concept comes out and looks like this, people are like, "Man, that's going to be a sweet car at that price point," but then it ends up being a totally different car. so, um, so now we're getting into cars that these are the ones that are either like exactly the same in production as they were as a concept or just opposite sides of the spectrum. And to kick that off is the most iconic, which is the B9 Scrambler concept from '03. This is what Subaru promised us. They said, "We're making a roadster. It's going to be convertible with the cool windshield and the crazy taillights, and everybody's going to love this thing, and it's going to be sick." And then Subaru said, "But what if we built this?" And then the ugliest car ever made was born.
Agreed. Agreed. The Tribeca was awful. Even
And
the second generation was terrible.
and it's funny because they claim the jet intake nose was
Oh.
migrated into the Tribeca. And I'm like, don't use the word jet intake anything when you put this in front of me. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about it. This, you want to talk to me about some jet intake, whatever? Okay, I'll hear you out. I think it's I think it's pretty interesting that they even thought of this. And then for them to put this out is like the most jarring, like just ugh. just oh
Oh,
god.
I can't look at it anymore. I can't.
It
I can't. I
just
can't. I can't look at it anymore. It's so
this
bad.
is
Scroll away.
this is one of my most hated Subarus ever because I hate this grill. And you and I did the episode on the B11S, which had
Yes.
this style grill to it, and that was like a even crazier looking sports car, and that thing was sick. It looked good. I
It,
think
it, it
here that
didn't embody anything the Tribeca was. Oh God.
yeah, in the
Oh, I'm
B9
having
Scrambler, this thing looks like a California convertible. I could see this driving in Santa
yeah.
Barbara, whatever.
Well, it kind of
But
it kind
like,
of fits that BMW category, and that's where honestly, like you talked about a luxury brand, this would fall into that luxury brand if Subaru had one.
yeah, and
They
then
could
Subaru
compete
was
with
like, or,
BMW on this level.
and then they were like, or what about this?
No, no, no,
You know,
no! I can't look at
I
it
was
anymore.
I was gonna say this before. I will die on this hill.
It's so
I
bad. It's
I
so
am
bad.
something that I wish they would bring back to more concepts or would like toy with. Dude, glass headlights. I am such a big glass headlights guy. I just like they were
DOT.
dude, they were so crystal clear and they were
Agreed.
just beautiful, and
They
then
didn't yellow.
they lasted forever. Like, dude, I'm sure if you bought one of these Tribecas, the headlights come pre-yellowed just as part of the package. Oh God. Okay, I gotta move on.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, but go away from that. That's giving me PTSD looking at that. Um, that Tribeca. I famously say that's the one Subaru that every Subaru enthusiast kind of wishes never happened. Um,
Yeah.
that just needs to be erased from history.
For anybody who isn't looking at the pictures, the Tribeca is like an ugly like SUV that it only has like hardly the front grille of the B9 Scrambler. It's just awful.
It looks like you married a bug and a giraffe. Good luck figuring that one out in your head. It looks terrible. It's
Yeah.
bad. It's not good.
The next one is one that I think Subaru did a really good job with. And actually, I think my take on this is that more people wanted more from this. I think that this is the first concept that got people excited about a possibility of a hatchback coming back. This was the 2015 five-door Impreza that actually became produced in 2017. But this was the original concept for this.
Yeah,
This is what it looked
I've
like.
seen this.
And dude, it's cool. You know, it gives the look of what I would say is a Mazda. I think Mazda is really well known at this point for the elongated hatchbacks that
Mm-hmm.
have this kind of look. And I think that, you
It's a
know,
good look.
I think the wheels are a little gimmicky or whatever, but I think that overall this ended up being what essentially came out of production. Because if you look at this car and then I show you this, pretty close.
It
I
did
think
pretty good.
that's pretty close. Again, they always try to make the headlights and the taillights and everything look
A
fancier
little weird.
and whatever. But like overall, it's got the same grill, it's got the same body, it's got the same hatch, you know. The only difference is they got the rails on it, which is a little bit of a different, you know, look to it. But I mean, hey, pretty good. They did pretty good. They weren't,
Yeah,
you know, blowing smoke or anything. They really were, you know, they really were confident in what they were making, and I think that
I
they ended up
agree.
making a good product.
And that's just one quick side note about the roof rails. For a lot of the newer models, here's one of the fun Easter eggs. If you didn't know this, for example, my mom's generation Subaru 2017 has it. If you have the roof rails like that, you actually have crossbars built in, and they actually disconnect and will swing over, and so you can actually have crossbars if you need them, or just make them a regular roof bar like or roof rails like that,
Oh,
which
wow.
is a really cool feature. Which I have to give a shout out to Subaru for really trying to encompass, you know, what people's needs might be.
Well, you can also see that they have what looks like Subaru's eyesight or whatever that program is.
Yep.
So they get plus 1 point for the roof rail, minus 10 points for this. So,
Yeah.
back in 2016, we put out the Visiv 7, which was okay, they put out two concepts. They put out the first concept in 2016 that was essentially the Subaru Ascent, and that is this right here. So this to me is just awful. like, like just the fog light and the whatever the
I don't know
bumper
what that
lights in
is.
the
Yeah, I
rear.
don't know.
I
Rear
don't,
bumper fog light. What do you call that?
like this is just a whole lot of awful. Just nothing about this do I like. And they had these crazy looking wheels and whatever. I think that for Subaru, this is a good car for them to preview though, because it does give like Ford Explorer kind of vibes. I think that like for trying to get into that market, it was good to show that they can put together something like that. But God, they are not Lexus. They need to chill with these crazy looking fog lights or whatever they're trying to do here. Like, if this was not here and these were not here in the rear, the front and the back, they would just sell a ton, just no matter what. But I think that like they just made this thing look so crazy. And for anybody watching at home, the fog lights and whatever's in the rear bumper, they look like vortexes to another planet. It's just they
Another
really,
dimension. They look really weird.
yeah, they look like they'll suck you in and then you'll get shot out the back. so,
Yeah, not a fan.
so this was back in 2016. So then in 2017, Subaru doubled down, and this is the next concept that they put out. Now this is almost exactly what the Ascent ended up being. And they got rid of the
Yep.
stupid fog lights, which I'm very happy about. But, you could tell 3-row seating. It's got the Subaru eyesight. It's got the same grill that it ends up having. So, like, if you look at this is the concept. And then this is what it ended up becoming. So you could see, I mean, they're not that far off. I think that Subaru still, they cheaped out on the headlights and the taillights like they always do. I think that they added chrome around the windows, which I'm not a fan of. I hate
And
chrome like that.
lighting and angles are different, so it's hard to really kind of compare the two.
Yes, yeah,
But they look very similar.
yeah. I mean,
Agreed.
they kept the plastics on the fenders. I just like what blows my mind is that when I look at the first concept, right, this to me competes with the Lexus G series. This competes with, Infinity SUVs
Yeah.
like
And
that
I think that's what
level.
they're going for. And that kind of also brings up another point that I've thought. And sadly, just due to logistics, we weren't able to be at SEMA this week. But I saw the release of the new Outback Wilderness, and it's getting more and more Forerunner.
Yeah.
It's starting to look like an SUV. They're getting
I think
bigger and bigger.
those are the trucks that are selling right now too. So I think that that's why they're going
Agreed.
that route. And I think
Agreed.
everybody can take a note out of Toyota's handbook on making reliable SUVs that people like and want to buy. So I think, you know, um the thing about this with these concepts is that this Ascent to me, right? This screams 70 to $80,000, right? I would say that this is almost like a step above the products that Subaru puts out. Then you go to the next
Yeah.
one, right? Okay, newer headlights, looks a little bit bougier. Okay, now we're talking like 50 to 60,000, right? Then you go to what they actually put out, and I look at this and I say, I'm not paying more than $35,000 for this car. I mean, because at 40,000, right, you could get a brand new Forerunner.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit more than that now. I mean, I'm thinking I got my Forerunner back in 2020, but like, if when you look at a car like this does not equal the same money as the first concept. And I think that
Sure.
that whereas
Agreed.
Subaru does take things out, I think that they almost took out a little too much on the Ascents. It almost looks like a Forester with a third row. So, but after they got through this, there was another car that came into the fray, and that was when the Crosstrek was coming around. And in
Mm-hmm.
2011, Subaru revealed this as the concept for for the new Crosstrek. So you and I both know this is basically a Crosstrek. They basically nailed it on the head. The XV,
Yep.
the grill is different for sure, but dude, the taillights are spot on. The headlights are spot on. The body
Yeah.
style, it's just a lifted Impreza
The grill
with
almost looks like more of an Outback to me,
yeah. I
like a
think
mini
probably the
version of the Outback grill from that kind of former generation.
yeah, yeah. Or like the legacy grills.
Yep, exactly, exactly. But yeah, no,
Um,
you're right. Everything pretty much was exactly what they built. The wheels are almost on par.
Now I don't know for sure, but I feel like the picture of the interior is probably the bait here. That's probably like not how that ended up coming. So I'd imagine it didn't have 3 touch screens so you could see your suspension at all times and whatever. But
Yeah,
the what ended up coming
sure.
of it is this. So it's close. It's really close.
Well, and those aren't the exact wheels because I think we were talking about earlier, they skip a generation. Those look like the next generation Crosstrek wheels.
Yes. Yeah. I agree with that. I think that
They
that's
went
what this
exactly for that style, that flower.
I wonder if they do that on purpose. I wonder if they make concepts and they say, "Let's make a tame version of this for now, and then we'll plan on making something closer to this 3 years from now once we're done with this production run."
Well, and that's something we've talked about before in an earlier episode was how the 2005 to 2009 Outback and Legacy GT was a platform for the '08 through 14 WRX. Had the same EJ 255, had the same turbo, everything to where if somebody bought a WRX in 2008, they could say, well, guess what? We have a 2005 Outback, has the same exact engine with you, that's been driving around for the last 3 years without problems, and you just blew yours up on the first day. What do you do? They're doing their market research ahead of time. Subaru's always been famously known for doing that.
Yeah. And this design in particular is the one that gives me hope for the new STI because, again, this is like a lifted Impreza that
Mm-hmm.
was put into concept. It was a car that they were already in the production of, and boom, they made it, almost exact.
Yep.
So I feel like now because they have a car that is something that's basically already in production, it's going to be as close as that. It'll just be exactly what they put out.
And it's a huge seller for Subaru. I think I don't want to hedge my bets, but I'd be safe to say, but sadly, I think the Impreza as a namesake is the next to die behind the legacy. I think they're going to get rid of the Impreza name entirely. They're going to have the Crosstrek as their Impreza model, and they might have a sedan model and a hatchback. And then you're going to also have the WRX be its own model, the STI be its own model, the Outback we've already seen, it's no longer a legacy anymore. Even before the death of the legacy, it's now just an Outback. Forester, its own thing. Subaru is trying to simplify its branding.
You know what though?
Because when you have a Subaru Impreza Outback Sport, it confuses your market.
I agree with that. The one thing that I was thinking about was that they're adding all of these new vehicles into the lineup, and I was like, man, like, what are they going to get rid of? Like, something's got to go away. But
It's a good point.
at the same time, Subaru doesn't have a luxury brand, so it
Agreed.
almost so if you were to take Toyota and Lexus and put them together, right? That's the amount of cars that Subaru could have under one roof. I think that like they market them differently and like one's high end, one's not, but Subaru's competing in those markets. I feel like they could almost do that. They could almost have 20 different cars in the lineup because
But here's another interesting
know?
point, because at the end of the day, it also takes a lot of money to do another brand and build another model and brand recognition, what have you, without people feeling like it's a watered down version of something
True.
or a hyped up version of something. So I think at the end of the day, one thing you have to appreciate is one of the reasons why Toyota has Lexus, Honda has Acura, Nissan has Infiniti. If you look back at the origins of why those companies started those brands, it was actually a tax evasion because manufacturers were restricted at the time because the automotive manufacturers in America were struggling because they were getting their, pardon my French, their butts kicked by the Japanese automakers with more reliability, better fuel efficiency, lower cost of ownership, but also lower cost for purchasing. They all started a luxury brand when they got one of their legs cut off. And they said, you know what? How do we start another division that can sell another car? But not only that, if we just want to sell Toyota, make another Toyota version of us, that doesn't work. What if we make a luxury brand where we sell that same car for a lot more money? So a Lexus 4Runner now becomes a Lexus GX, and we actually make it with leather trim and infotainment system and navigation, which we never will offer at a Toyota up until later years. They're always going to be one step behind, and we can create a whole nother subsidiary. But now, fast forward, you look at Infinity. Infinity's not doing too well right now.
Yeah. I mean, I was
Why?
the one thing I wanted to make a note of is that it's also a different market. The US market
Mm-hmm.
likes high-end stuff. And so I feel like part of it is like while Japan might not care, they might just want Toyota and not, care if they have Lexus or not. Like
Mm-hmm.
England and the US and like places like that, they've always had BMWs, Mercedes, like so they're used to having an option to go with a higher end brand. So I think that those markets cater to that too. So
Well, sure. Well, and fun side note for anyone who doesn't know, Lexus is actually an acronym. It's luxury export for the US.
that's awesome.
That's how they came up with the name.
Anyways, I want to keep moving on the list just because we're dragging behind a little. Let me
Sorry.
rip through a couple of these. No, you're good. The next one is the BRZ Concept STI from 2011. So in 2011, Subaru came out with the BRZ Concept, and as you can tell, it looks pretty close to what the final product ended up being. I think the one difference is that the rear taillights and the rear bumper are very different. I don't think that they are really what um, ended up being the final product. But the front headlights, the front bumper, the front hood, fenders, everything, the whole front end of this car is
The whole
exact.
shape.
I think that they knocked this out of the park. And I think that previewing this as a concept, such a smart idea because this definitely hyped people up for this car. And then for it to come out and look pretty much exactly like this is like a slam dunk, because this is the final product. It ended up being, you could tell the front end, it's exact. I mean, that is the car that came out of the concept. I think that the rear end is where it looks like they had to play with a little. They still got the big beefy fenders, but
Yeah.
they took out the wing and the duckbill kind of looking wing. They changed up the taillights to kind of match the headlights a little bit shape wise. And I think that they ended up with just a very cool, sleek, sport car.
It's really close.
Yeah. So the next one I have here is the Legacy Concept. Back in 2013, Subaru announced that they were going to be making a new Legacy, and this is what they brought to the concept table. And I'm a little split on this one. If you
The front's close, kind of.
Yeah, if you're listening at home, it's basically the 2015 Legacy front end, very boxy with the same Subaru hexagon kind of grille look that they have. It's got the sea lights. It looks a little bit fancier, almost like on par with like a Lincoln sedan, I would say. And it's got these sleek, thin mirrors on the side that look almost like sport car mirrors.
Well, they always do the futuristic thing, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at this, it looks pretty close to a Legacy. And then when you get to the 2015 Legacy, you can see here, um, it's almost exact. I think that it's a little bit smaller height wise, and I think that it's a little less beefy. They definitely got rid of these like crazy looking wide fenders and they almost like shortened it up a little bit. It looks a lot more like a daily driven like normal sedan in the final product. And again, they got rid of all the fancy lights. I mean, it does have sea lights, but they got rid of the fancy stuff that they put in it for for the concept show. But another one that's pretty close. The next one is an interesting one that we don't have here in the US, but this is the 2020 Lavorg. So back in 2018, Subaru put it out as the Visive Tourer Concept.
Yep.
And
I remember
that
this.
that is this boy right here.
So
For
mad.
you, for you people at home, this looks like a 22 WRX wagon almost. Um or like a station wagon.
It looks amazing. Just go on YouTube and follow us and watch it because it looks amazing.
Yeah. It's got the best lines, I think. It's got very hard cut, like aggressive looking body lines. It's got like boxy fenders. It's got the boxy fender wells, like the plastic covers around the wheels. It's just like such an aggressive looking station wagon. And then what they ended up coming out with production wise is this. It's not the same. They got rid of the really aggressive fenders. They kept some of the same body styling, like the grille and the bumper and the headlights and
It needs
you
more
know,
back.
yeah,
It
it
needs more
does.
back.
It looks like they tried to meet in the middle between like going all out on like a shooting brake essentially and
Hmm.
an Impreza 5-door. Like they tried to cut the difference when you look at the concept where it really was like a long station wagon, like aggressive, that like just
It
really
had
good
that
looking
little bit
car.
of an ass to it. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm sure the people that were able to get one of these cars were upset about it. But I think at the same time, like from us talking about where production meets, um,
The
concept,
road,
this is not what I would have wanted out of this.
not at all.
So the next car is in 2007, Subaru put out the
Mm-hmm.
Exiga Concept, which essentially looks like I want to say like a Mazda 5. Like or whatever. Mazda had like an SC
Yeah,
or like a little hatchback looking thing that kind of looked like this. It almost
yeah.
looks like it has an
I think it was
accurate
the
front end.
MP5.
The MP5, that's what I was thinking of.
That was it.
So this is Subaru's version of that, basically, that it has almost like an Acura grill to it, like a front end, like a pointy with the headlights, and then
It's
it's
got a
got
hood
this.
scoop.
It does have a hood scoop.
I like the hood scoop.
You got the picture of the back of it here. So
That looks good, actually.
it's not a bad looking car. I think that they did kind of a cool concept with this.
I think it's kind of a minivan almost.
Almost a minivan, yeah.
It's a
Uh,
cool minivan. Honestly, if that was my minivan, I would drive the hell out of that thing. All right.
this is what this car ended up looking like from when it actually was produced. The MPV.
Love it.
This thing's sick. I kind of like it.
I want one.
Yeah. It's got that extra room to it, and it's got the hood scoop, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I mean they put it out. They kept it very close to their concept, and I think they did a great job with this one.
I wish that was real.
Yeah, same.
I want one.
Well, this is real. It only released
Yeah.
in Japan and Australia, but hey, you can import it now. There you go.
I want the first one.
Yeah. So the final one that I have that actually made it to production is the SVX Concept. 1989, they put the concept out. 91 to 96, they had the production run. This is one of those ones that it was so close from production to or from concept to production. The car came out almost identical to what it is. I think it's, very small stylistic changes, but I mean, you could see here that this is like outside of the wing being a little different, it's not as built into the trunk as it was in the concept.
I mean, they
Wheels are a
stuck
little
with the
different.
glass though. That was a big commitment.
Stuck with the glass. The front bumper is a
costs a
little
lot.
different. Yeah. So that was the last one I had. The SVX, I mean, everybody knows it. It ended up looking pretty close to what they were trying to put out. But Dave, this is where we get to dive down into another WRX Files. I was looking into concept cars that never made it to production. And one of these I'm very sad about because it is such a cool car, such a cool design. And wait till I read a little bit to you. You're gonna lose it. This is the Subaru. I want to say Surin. Surin. I don't know. It's Suiren. Suiren. I don't know. So in 1993, Subaru put out this vehicle that it looks very close to a Subaru Baja. Oh, I think that this was the precursor to the later Bajas coming out. Um,
Hmm.
it's the name Suiren is Japanese for water lily. It was shown at the 93 Tokyo Motor Show. It was a sporty wagon pickup style concept based on the Impreza platform. As you can tell, it almost has like a bug eye kind of look to it, with a detachable canopy and a design that hinted at the Brat slash Brumby uh, successors.
Hmm.
Now, this thing came with a 2.5-liter double overhead cam, flat four, full-time four-wheel drive, multi-link suspension, rally-type center diff, and even controls on the steering wheel. So, um, this never made it to production because despite the design of it, Subaru never put it into production based on the feedback that they got on it. And it remains a concept only. So this is the part that kills me is this is the little write-up that they have on this thing, and it shows it with the bed cap and with
The
like,
topper, yes.
with like boats and stuff in the bed. But it says, um, with its easily detachable canopy, the Swiren provides the advantages of both a sport utility wagon and a stylish touring pickup. Lightweight yet highly impact resistant plastic window glass in quotation marks on the canopy eliminates worries about scratching the windows when removing and attaching the canopy. The newly developed multi-link suspension facilitates smooth running performance while greatly enhancing cargo room. Now, Dave, this is the part of this that sends me over the top and why I wish that this came to production. It says the high torque 2.5 liter 16 valve double overhead cam horizontally opposed engine is coupled with a Pro Drive semi-automatic transmission developed for WRC rally racing. The semi-automatic sport shift lets the driver shift up or down by means of a button on the steering wheel. The buttons trigger an electronically controlled pneumatic actuator that operates the manual transmission. Electronic controls eliminates misshifts and enables uh, easy yet sporty running with high efficiency and safety. Full-time four-wheel drive with vicious LSD equipped center diff also provides excellent running characteristics, taking a step beyond the capabilities of previous wagons. The on-road four-wheel drive Swiren combines the feeling of stability and comfort of a wagon with the convenience and utility of a pickup. So, Dave, this thing
It was
is
ahead of its time.
it's essentially a 2.5 liter, right? With, whatever. It's got, like a base non-turbo Impreza engine in it. But like, I mean, dude, we're talking this is 1993 and they're saying they have a semi-automatic sport shift WRC Pro Drive semi-automatic transmission in this thing that and so what's crazy to me is like, normal cars, right? You have the automatic transmission, but then they have the plus and the minus where you can shift gears in an automatic trans. And I think that that's what this is saying it has, but I've never heard of one that has the buttons in the steering wheel that it's not paddle
Well,
shifters, it's
I think we have to
buttons.
remember that the times were different. And I think that, everyone was kind of looking for that next biggest thing. I feel like this reminds me so much of the Pontiac Stinger concept, which never made into production, but it was kind of this, California Baja vehicle. It had some really cool features where the seats in the car, you had a little part of the seat that would actually pull out. You could take it out and sit on the sand with it, and it was a little camp chair.
Yeah.
And then the center console came out, and it was also like a cooler. And then there was a built-in speaker that was in the side that was also a Bluetooth speaker. So you could disconnect it from the doors. It was a Bluetooth speaker. Or sorry, wired speaker before Bluetooth. So you could plug it into, your MP3 player or whatever, or Discman, Walkman, and you could play it removed from the car. These companies were all trying to do the next biggest revolutionary thing based on the technology. And I think that we look fast forward now, we're really not that much different when we introspect on ourselves now, where, who doesn't have an iPad? iPads have been around forever.
Yeah.
Well, let's put an iPad in your car.
I mean, do I think that this is the best looking car ever? No. Do I think that it was pushing boundaries? Yeah. I think that
Yeah,
this is a very cool, like, dude, you look at the Ford Maverick, that's essentially what this thing is. Like, and that
agreed.
car and that little truck is selling a ton of units right now. I mean, this
And
is,
sometimes things are too far or too early for their time. This obviously didn't sell or didn't get made because they didn't think there was a market for it
yeah, I think that
at the
it
time.
clearly goes to show that, like, there's things out there that they could always go back to if they want to, because this is kind of
Agreed.
a cool car that is nice to have in their back pocket, you know? Um,
Oh, sure.
I would love to see this thing in person. I don't know where the concept's being held, probably at Subaru, but I wanna go see it.
Hey, quick future talk. I've been really wanting to go to plan a future trip to Japan to go to the Subaru Museum. And we might have to talk, Pat, and make it happen. Because that'd be really cool if we can make that a future trip here, and we could document everything, and do a. I mean, how cool would it be to do a live podcast in Japan?
Dave,
Just
you
saying.
say less. I have a 2-week-old child. I'm not sleeping. Please put me on an 18-hour flight. I will sleep the whole way.
Hey, we'll figure it out, and it doesn't have to be immediately, but yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about it because you know what? I think this definitely needs to happen. We need to go to Japan
You know,
in a future episode.
I've been wanting to
Yes.
go for a while, so I would definitely be down to
Yes.
plan something.
Yes.
Well, Dave, there's another car that we might see while we're there, and that is the Subaru B5 TPH.
Oh,
You wanna see something. This is something for sure. Get the feeling that when this car came out in 2005, when they previewed this, I get the feeling that they were trying to beat the hamsters in the Kia Souls or whatever the commercial was, or, or the Scion
yeah.
XBs or whatever. Because
With the
I mean,
green.
yeah, I mean, dude,
Oh,
nothing is tackier than neon green, like, gator print leather in your Subaru SUV that you're picking kids up
dude, it's
in,
even
like,
it's even in the backlighting for anyone who's not able to see the images on the radio. The backlighting on the radio is alligator neon green. It's horrible.
yeah.
Oh my god, no.
Let
No.
me just paint a picture for everybody at home. So, if you can't see the pictures right now. So, remember that jet-focused front end that they were talking about with the Tribeca? Well,
Mm-hmm.
this is another one of those brilliant jet-focused front ends that they put on, another ugly SUV with not even a it's I don't what Dave, what would you consider that? It's not even a hatch. It's like I guess it's a hatch, but, like, it's like, imagine your dad's SUV or whatever. Imagine you just cut it in half and you just,
It's a Porsche 944 hatch.
yeah, yeah, you
The
gotta
the the
open,
the back doesn't open, it's only the top opens.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you get
Old Corvettes.
yeah. So, I don't think I have to say why this one didn't make it to production, but I think, this car in particular says that it was a turbo parallel hybrid system. That's the TPH, combining a turbocharged petrol boxer engine and an electric motor slash generator. So this was going to be a hybrid build
Could
that
be
they were
cool.
working on. It was a
On
three-door
paper,
shooting
could be
brake.
cool.
it was gonna come with a 2-liter flat, turbo, um, electric motor, 10 kilowatts, lithium-ion capacitor battery, claimed 40 miles per gallon combined in concept form. Subaru did use hybrid tech and made future hybrid capable models, but this car was not a gateway or a vision into that. this this car was a
No.
let's forget we made this.
Yeah.
Um, the next one is one of the last ones I want to talk about. In 1997, oh, here's a real picture of this car, by the way, if you wanted to just yeah, if you wanted to just throw up in real time, there you go.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I just threw up my mouth right there. I don't know how to
Who
convey
I
that.
wanna talk
That looks
to
terrible.
I wanna talk to whoever works at Subaru that was like, what color combo do we go with?" And they were like, "Let's go with, like, a nice desert tan for the outside,
No,
baby
that's not
bottom
desert
tan."
tan. That's
It's like
horrible. That's
yeah,
horrible. I don't know what that is. I don't know how to describe that. That's awful.
they're like eggshell white, but the egg's been outside in the sun for a few
You know
days.
what that is? Is that stained brown bed sheets. That's not good.
Yeah. But then they were like, "What about the inside?" And then they were like, "What if we skinned an alligator and dumped neon green paint on it?" It's like
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Sweat stained bed sheets. That's your image for anyone who's not looking at this. It's like, yep, that's what this looks like. It's horrific color.
yeah.
Whoever thought this, and I know there's different lighting, so you can see kind of different angles to it for anyone who's actually looking at the image we're looking at. It still looks horrible. Every part about this looks horrible.
Well, Dave, I have our last one here. 1997, Drew Elton.
I love it.
Now, this thing was
It's
kinda
way better than the last one for anyone
yeah.
who's not watching. It's Pikachu yellow. I already love it.
This is Subaru basically took the Subaru 360,
Hmm.
and they took that and they tried to make it more into like a little bit of a bigger, almost like a Fiat look.
It
Um,
looks like a bug.
I feel like in 97 they may have been trying to touch a little bit more in the European markets, so they were coming to market with something a little bit more like a Fiat. But the name of it stands for Electric plus K10, the development code of the Subaru
Okay.
360. It was a hybrid four-wheel drive hatchback concept. Featured a small gasoline engine and an electric motor, underfloor batteries, solar panels on the roof, quite ahead of its
Huh.
time. Um, Never went to production because it was not possible. So, it
A lot
says
of
that it
concept ideas I feel like aren't viable, and I feel like that's where I'd love to go back to where concepts weren't just okay speculation on what the next generation was. It's what do we want to see in 10 years?
yeah. I think that with this car, they were taking retro and they're kind of trying to bring it into the future. Um, you know, I think that it embodies more of Subaru trying to do some future thinking than actually like trying to put together a real concept, you know. So yeah, we're gonna move on to the future of the now, and that is the car that we talked about in our last episode, which is the new Performance B and the Performance E. And so, Dave, final thoughts after walking through all of these concepts. Do you think that there's a high probability that the cars that they showed are going to look like what they did look like? Do you think that they're going to be made? Um, I'm kind of in the boat now of like Subaru mostly sticks to their guns with their concepts. There's very few where they change it up completely, like the Tribeca, which is just a disgrace. But as far as like electric cars go, they don't have a great track record of keeping or of actually producing them, or if they do produce them, they don't really look like what they concepted it as.
Yeah,
Um, but as far as the wagon goes, I keep calling it a wagon. As far as the hatchback goes, it looks production ready. That looks like a real car in their lineup versus the electric car that still looks like all the pictures we just looked at. It looks like the
hmm
thing that they don't actually put out. And so I think that we're going to see the hatchback is going to look very similar to what they showed it as, but the electric car I think is going to be totally different when it comes out of production.
sure. I think my end takeaway is that you're right. I think there's different kind of spectrums of automotive manufacturers and what they might portray as a concept vehicle. I think some manufacturers and again, I don't want to out anybody, but I feel like some of the futuristic, renditions, if you will, we've seen from Cadillac, for example, in the last couple of years, are just blatant, you know, disregards to what is actually feasible, or what is actually feasible not only now but in the future. As far as like, you can't make this car look like a Tron vehicle. I feel like there's a lot of manufacturers that are like, we want to get everyone excited, and the new Ford looks like, Tron release. And no, coincidentally, it's sponsored by Tron. So that's one side of it. But at the same time, you're right. Subaru has always played things a lot more closer to the chest. I think they're smart to do that because they have a more niche community. Um, it would be to their detriment to say, oh, look at us, Saab, we're born from jets. The next car is going to look like a fucking jet.
Yeah.
Cool. We can't build that because it would cut people off of the kneecaps if it ever hit them at
Yeah.
5 miles an hour. Unfortunately, DOT regulates, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of these kind of design characteristics. And so I think that manufacturers are torn between, they're looking at it from two sides. Do we want to excite people in like our future vision of what, our car brand could be? We're going to sell people some false promise of what we can build, but
Yeah.
that's restricted based on what regulation will let us build. So they can cry, well, you didn't build that. Well, they wouldn't let us build that. That's why.
Well, I think the Cybertruck is a clear example that people like space age and, different and new stylings. And so, I don't think it's far off
Sure.
from them like essentially making kind of what people want. I mean, you look at the Performance E, it looks like a futuristic electric car that is a sports car and whatever. And I think it's not that it's far off from what's been produced recently from Tesla and all
Mm-hmm.
these other electric manufacturers. And I think that it's cool because they could make that car. It's 10 years ago, if that was the concept, it would look nothing like that when it came out. But I think
Mm-hmm.
now, like with the way that technology has progressed and the way that these cars are being made, like that's a realistic possibility. That could be a production car. I think that we're getting closer to where these people who are doing the concepts are getting much closer to what the car is actually going to look like. And I think that that kind of just goes to show that, like,
I agree.
maybe we get both of them. Maybe they're both exactly the way that they look. Maybe we get something that is exactly what everybody wants. So we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Um, but that's it for us on this one, guys. We will catch you on the next one. We do have Overtake USA coming on soon. We're going to be doing an
Yes.
episode with them, so stay tuned for that. We're very excited, and yeah, I would say just keep the notifications on. Shoot us a comment on YouTube. We do read them. Check out our
Yes.
socials. We do have our Facebook page and everything else, Instagram, all that.
Don't trust
So,
Carfax.
and don't trust Carfax. We'll see you guys on the next one.